Hello and welcome to this episode of the Digital Disruption Podcast, brought to you by Novus Strategy and Consulting with Pete Gatenby and myself, Chris Williams. In today's episode, we're talking digital maturity and the importance of knowing what your digital maturity is against the rest of the market. So let's get into it. Pete, digital maturity is today's topic. What is a digital maturity index and why does it matter?
Great. So I'll start with explaining the maturity index itself. Okay. I'll remove digital for a second, but you'll see why. So a maturity index is an assessment of how mature, how good, in simple terms, you are within a particular area. So this is my favourite example. If we were to do a maturity assessment on our gym ability, we both go to the gym, probably various levels of success, and no funny comments in the captions, please. But if we were to do a maturity assessment against our gym performance, we would assess each area of our performance within the gym. So you might look at cardio, how far can you run, how fast could you run, versus how good is your squat? Are you able to squat your body weight? Are you able to squat twice your body weight? And what level are you performing at? If we then apply that to digital, we then look at digital in each of its areas in a very, very similar way. And so we have 7 pillars that we assess as part of the Novus Digital Index, which is our digital maturity assessment. I just want to point out, maturity assessments and indexes are a common thing, and they're used across well within the consulting and strategy world to assess many different areas.
I mean, ultimately what we're saying is that we understand what obviously the maturity index is, obviously our NDI, where it's at, and we're going to talk about the NDI now, and the whole purpose of this episode is to help people understand, one, why they should be measuring the digital maturity, two, give them access to our index, so you can download it from our website, and that'll sort of help you get on the curve. But this is all about performance, isn't it? At the end of the day, this is all about improving performance. We live in a highly competitive landscape. Obviously, we operate within financial services, specifically within the mortgage and sort of home buying conveyancing market. This is undergoing transformation and change, digitization. In order to perform, remain competitive, stay at the forefront of things, you've got to really understand where you are in the digital landscape from a maturity standpoint, haven't you? I appreciate it's a closed question, but
you're right.
You just have to.
Yeah, you're right, because if you don't know where you are today, how can you plot a plan to where you want to be?
And so from a strategic standpoint, all businesses or all organizations are looking at themselves, where do we want to be in 1, 2, 3, 5 years' time? What do we need to do? Before we get into the pillars, I just want to make the comment, and this is something that we say a lot with clients. Every business today is a technology company. If you're a law firm, you're a tech company that provides legal services. If you're a bank, you're a tech company that provides financial services. Every company is a tech company. So understanding your capabilities and being able to perform higher, be more robust, be more scalable, digital maturity and understanding that is mission critical, is kind of our
That's it. And position. It gives you a measurement of that digital maturity at a point in time, which can be benchmarked against your peers and your industry.
Brilliant. So let's get into the core bits then of what we measure. So we have 7 pillars on our as part of our sort of digital maturity index, or the NDI as we know it. There's 7 pillars. Just give us the headline points of each of the pillars, and then let's gradually we'll talk through each one and give the watchers and listeners a bit of a guide as to kind of how to leverage these. So what are the 7 pillars that we look at?
So our 7 pillars are split into 2 groups. We have lead pillars and a lag pillar. So I'll start with the lead pillars first. And just for the uninitiated, a lead pillar or a lead metric is something that you can control and you can affect. And typically you would measure how you're doing in those areas. So our 6 lead pillars are digital business strategy.
Number 1, digital business strategy, yeah.
Number 2, operating model.
Okay.
Number 3, digital capabilities. Number 4, digital culture and skills. Number 5, innovation and scalability. And number 6, you've got regulatory compliance and risk. That one is very, very specific to the market in which we operate in.
Yeah, okay.
And the seventh, which is the lag pillar, is customer experience. Now then, customer experience, when you're measuring that, typically when you dive into any of the areas of customer experience, it's underpinned by one of the lead pillars. And actually, when you go to improve customer experience, actually what you're affecting and what you're working on is actually a lead pillar. And so we have our lead pillars, the six pillars I mentioned, and then we have the lag pillar, which is the customer experience.
Excellent. Okay, so before we get into talking about each of these, something I just want to highlight is we've talked about AI in one of our podcasts, and that comes out in the next couple of weeks. Actually, AI and machine learning is a very hot topic across industry sectors at the moment. I just want to highlight that this is part of our maturity assessment. We've recently updated it in the last few months, so the AI is covered in this. I just wanted to kind of put that out there, and this is another reason why it's so important to be assessed, because you've got all the hype and stuff around AI and all this sort of stuff. This is the kind of thing that you can be doing so that you're focusing your investment and your basically your resources in the right places, right?
100%.
Okay. Brilliant.
Quick stat.
Okay.
For fans. 77% of financial services execs believe that AI will need to become established within their business as an integral part of their operating model by 2025.
That is a very interesting statistic.
Yeah.
Very interesting indeed. So this is, again, another reason why to know kind of where you are to benchmark yourself from a maturity standpoint. Right, so let's get into it. So pillar number 1, digital business strategy. So what we're talking about here is, we all know what strategy is. Ultimately, in simple terms, is where to play and how to win, as we describe it. But from a digital standpoint, there are organizations that perhaps most of them will have strategy, that's fine, but where does digital play a role? Do you have a particular digital business strategy? This is what this is about. Do you just want to give us an overview of the maturity, I guess, pillars, if is that the right word to use? Because we have
stages.
The scale, don't we? There's 4 stages, don't we? So just talk us through the stages, and we'll align those to the digital business strategy as the first example.
So we have 4 stages of maturity. The first is incidental. That's the lowest.
Yep.
So that means things sort of happen to you. You're not necessarily, you're sort of reacting.
You react.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
The next is intentional.
Yeah.
So you're starting to plan things. You spot on them quite a micro scale, might be tactical. Then you've got integrated. Digital is integrated into everything that you're doing. And then the fourth is optimized. Actually, your operations as an organization is optimized to be digitally focused. And at this stage, and again goes back to your point that you were saying earlier, these businesses are digital first businesses that just happen to be law firms or just happen to be banks.
Yeah.
And that's the levels of maturity.
Okay. So digital business strategy, it's really important to kind of have a fully integrated digital strategy. So it's not, this isn't an independent strand. Your organization needs to be of a certain standard in order to remain competitive.
Absolutely. So at the top level, the digital business strategy will be well defined. It'll be well understood. It'll be integrated into the metrics and how people measure success. It'll also be optimized and constantly updated as new technologies come online.
So it's very iterative, isn't it? It's kind of, yeah, brilliant. Okay, so that's digital business strategy. And I think something that's probably worth pointing out here is that each of these pillars, they all are interconnected in some way. So we start off with the digital business strategy. Obviously, the next one on the list here, number 2, is the operating model. Naturally, you've got to have a mature operating model that can function within or service a digital first business. I just want to give a couple of examples of this. You'd mentioned to me historically about, when you were obviously studying out in America all those years ago, Pete, that when you first ever went there, getting a bank card was a paper process. It took weeks to get it. What we're saying here from an operating model standpoint as a pillar is, and using that as an example, if you have digitized areas of your organization and not then assessed the operations that support it, there's a disconnect. And that, therefore, is unlikely to be robust and consequently, therefore, probably not scalable. And we've seen this a lot, specifically in the conveyancing and mortgage industry, whereby vertical elements of it have been digitized and become quite fragmented, but the operating functions aren't there to kind of allow things to operate at scale end to end.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, because every business has elements of digital in their operating model now. In their operating models now. So that doesn't make them mature. But when they're isolated and they're not end to end, it's not optimized, and the way that they work doesn't, and the way that they do business from an operating model doesn't meet digital standards, they're not operating in an agile and iterative way across the business, then they lack that maturity.
Well, this is, we talk about scale. This is where organisations tend to slow down. This is why startup businesses who are much more lean and bootstrapped, they don't have the constraints. And you are ultimately introducing constraints, aren't you, really? Mm-hmm. Moving on to pillar 3, what's our third pillar?
Digital capabilities.
So it seems fairly obvious that digital capabilities is all about the tooling, the people that you have. What are your level of capabilities within your organisation? Is this where we start to look at areas of AI and ML and things like that?
Yeah, and look, AI and ML actually comes into every area really, because it's a commodity. Right. It's not a pillar on its own. It's like having a computer. It's something that everyone operates day to day on when they're doing their work. AI is becoming like that, and in the very near future it will be underpin everything we do, if not underpins more than people realise today already. So when we look at digital capabilities, they might be limited to very basic digital tooling. They may use tools in isolation. As you go through the levels of maturity, at the very, very top end, you've got state-of-the-art tooling that uses emerging technology in the right way at the right time. And so that's how you go from one to another. That's really where generative AI or kind of fully integrated chatbots to service customers when they've got a complaint or whatever it might be. That the most mature digital capable businesses are doing that kind of thing and having those kind of conversations with us.
Is it fair to say that also in the digital capabilities area that this is also about being resourceful? Because you don't necessarily have SMEs or subject matter experts on hand on-prem to deal with certain either nuances or innovations that come through. So it's about just having the ability, the resource pool available to you to be able to tap into key things to from a capability standpoint as well. We look at that, don't we, when we're doing these assessments?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. So that's number 3. We touched on there. What's number 4?
Digital culture and skills.
So culture, big one. I know, especially for HR, all organisations are constantly. COVID was a big one to accelerate sort of digital culture, wasn't it, really? And home working and so on and so forth. And that's obviously evolved now significantly. But what specifically are the things that we're looking at here when we're assessing?
So it ranges, really. It does range from the people you've got in the organisation, how they work, all the way through to how do you upskill your team and keep them on top of the latest evolution of technology. How do you adopt change? So if somebody comes with a new innovation idea, for example, how do you embrace that?
How's that kind of harboured through the organisation?
Exactly.
Ways of working, things like that.
Yeah, ways of working sort of touched into operating model as well, but obviously there's grey lines between all of these things because there's overlap. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the fourth pillar we're on now.
That was 4.
That was number 4. Is there anything else specifically in there that you think that would be useful for people listening and watching on that one? Because I think, at the end of the day, all companies are a group of people, and great companies are a group of great people. You've got to have a good product and good service, but ultimately the good products or the good service comes from the people and how they sort of service it. So it's a really, all of these pillars are important, but this is one that I think is crucially important. Is there anything specific in there that you could you would share with the audience now to say, look, when you're looking at this one, really hone into this, because if you're a bit incidental on this sort of stuff, you're going to struggle. You're the sort of you're going to decline quickly. Whereas how do we get you to the right of those quadrants?
Yeah, so the businesses that are the most mature in this pillar, so digital culture and skills, are those that empower their people. And so empowering, and it's a bit of a woo-woo word, but actually it's quite a powerful word, even though it says empower, clearly. But what we see is when we talk to organisations at the highest level of this maturity, their people they do see problems, but they're empowered to go and fix them quickly with new technology or testing something, or if they see an opportunity to do something better, they're encouraged and empowered to go do things. So that empowerment is the big one that I guess you could put all the workshops on the world about culture and everything else, but if you're not empowering your people to go ahead and do things, then you're going to really struggle to get the top scores in this pillar.
I've noticed that the organisations that I've worked with and consulted with, there's a real standout. They stand out massively when it comes to innovation. And you see innovative companies where the people are kind of hungry to kind of do more, do better, find new ways of doing things to improve things, and the customer sits at the heart of it. So yeah, I just wanted to take a little bit of time on that one, but obviously there's so much in all of them, but I think it's such an important one.
It is, yeah. And actually you touched on our fifth pillar there, innovation and scalability, because again, as we said, they blur into each other a little bit. But this pillar is honestly my favourite, because it's the area that I probably done the most work in and enjoy the most. Innovation and solving new problems in new ways, especially when you've got new technology in an evolving digital world where you've got the frameworks that exist around us, and the technology is evolving at a rate of pace at the moment which is never been seen before.
And I think specifically in this industry sector, innovation is key. If you're not innovating, if you're not kind of looking at how or reimagining how things could be done, and we're not on about wasting loads of money in these areas, but a percentage of revenue should always be positioned into innovation to protect. We talk about business value and the three different types of business value. You're either protecting money with a new product or service, you're protecting revenue, you're either increasing efficiencies with a new product or services, or you're creating new revenue because it's new money. So you've got to be innovating around these things. And so that fifth pillar of innovation, if you're not innovating it, you don't necessarily have to have an innovation department, but we linked it back to the fourth pillar of culture. If you've got the right people and you've got a good culture, you can innovate from within.
You're right. And one of the things is, you're right, you do not need an innovation department. One of the things that I'm seeing a lot at the moment with clients that we're working with is we're building innovation frameworks with them, because obviously we're in a highly regulated market. We can't be just allowing people to go and build chatbots and deploy them without the right controls and mechanisms around them.
Yeah.
Innovation frameworks empowers people when they've got an idea to fix up an existing problem, or go solve a customer problem that's known in the right way. It then aligns to the business strategy. You start to see how each of these pillars are integrally linked. But those innovation frameworks, we have a whole question on innovation frameworks, and do you have an innovation framework? We talk to some clients, they don't even know what it is. They've never even heard of it. And actually, when we explain it to them, they're like, actually, no, that's what we need, because they want, no business doesn't want to innovate.
No.
It's just they don't know how to do it safely. And so when you start to question that and actually dive into that, it unlocks something, and almost unlocks that in their mind and says, well, actually, this is probably something we probably need to look at and explore, especially in the home buying and compliance market, because it's such a regulated market.
Yeah.
So you just create the safeguards around it, and then put the rules in place and allow people to play within those rules.
We talk about innovation. I guess this neatly links into actually the sixth pillar, doesn't it? Really, of
regulatory compliance.
Compliance and risk. I found. Some years ago inside some lenders, there was often, in fact, actually we were on the same one together. I remember it was some years ago, but one of the biggest challenges is that the innovation folk and the compliance and risk teams kind of wouldn't collaborate. It was almost like, oh no, we don't want to sort of talk to them because they're going to stop us doing things.
Yeah.
Actually, this is all about cross-functional, isn't it? Because when you're working in a highly regulated environment, as you quite rightly said, you can still innovate. However, there's got to be a framework. So let's dig into this now from a risk and compliance standpoint. That's our sixth pillar.
Regulatory compliance and risk is such an important part of the industry that we operate in. And actually, when you talk to a lot of people in the industry, you get a lot of eye rolls and a lot of, they almost see it as the fun police, right? The people who, at the end of the process, when they're trying to get something live or they're trying to kind of almost get a code drop out and get a release out or whatever it might be, they're the ones who are going, hang on a second, guys, you haven't ticked this box over here, and therefore I can't let this go live. And suddenly they're delayed by 3-4 weeks, and their PR team's going mental because they're not able to hit the deadlines that they've promised the market, right, or promised their customers. And actually, the most mature organisations in this pillar are those that have a collaborative way of working. They have the risk and compliance teams as part of the product teams, the product strategy, the product strategy groups. They are inputting into the product and the development teams so early on, so they're mitigating and they're planning for for risk and compliance ahead of time. One of the best kind of reads on this here, I can't recommend this book enough, is the Phoenix Project. It talks all about this.
It's excellent.
Yeah, it's a very, very good book. But if you want to see how that can work in quite a nice, easy to digest way, actually, it's a really good look at it. But the lowest form of maturity in this area is definitely those people who treat it as a retrospective tick box exercise. And actually, it's where we more see waterfall behaviours exhibited.
Yeah.
And when we often talk about Wagile, right? Because they go, we have an approval process that we can't fix to. And it's like, actually, you're approaching this the wrong way. If you bring them in early on in the process, then that's never a risk. Because
this is about speed as well, isn't it, this one? Compliance, governance, risk, regulatory stuff, this is all critically important. It's there for a reason. And it's not a bad thing at all. What we're talking about here is that if you can improve your levels of maturity and effectively change your ways of working if you're not working in this way, and integrate compliance, governance, regulation into the early phases of product development, innovation and everything else, then ultimately you can significantly increase the pace for which you can get to market with new product, services and whatever else. I mean, I'm working on something at the moment with a client you'll be well aware of that. We're talking with the regulators, we're talking with the Bank of England, we're looking at all sorts as an integrated collaborative unit. And if the regulator's working in that way with us, then there's no reason why your organisation can't be working in that way and doing all this stuff. And I think that all the pillars, as we've said several times during this podcast, really are all important. Of course they are, and hence why we've picked them out. But this one as well is one of those ones to me that's almost kind of like people, like you said, is a bit of a tick box. So that's great. I think we've covered that really well. Anything else you want to add on that one before we get into the seventh, our last one?
No.
So the seventh and the last one, this was the six were what we call our lead, our lead pillars. We're now on to the lag, which is customer experience.
Customer experience, yeah. So customer experience, the lowest level of maturity that we see is very much basic digital interaction. Not clearly everyone has a website, because we do, but you might not be able to do anything on there. You could just be a brochure-esque website, versus the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where you've got an exceptional, probably AI-driven customer experience that's digitally first. You're meeting them where they are. You're going cross-channel. You might be meeting them on app. You might be on chatbots. You might be in their Instagram DMs. I don't know. But that's the most mature level of customer experience that we see. And when you start to get into that, it's underpinned by all those leads.
I think in the mortgage, conveyancing, home buying market, customer experience is something that this might not be particularly popular comment, but it's genuinely my opinion that actually the customer hasn't always been at the heart of the journey. If we look across the ecosystem, that's most definitely changing now. But I think that it's so important to really put the customer at the heart of everything. And by doing that, when we put the customer at the heart of everything, and if you can be much more mature in that as you go through if you use our index, what you begin to realize is your competitive advantages that you then start to get. The fact that you're able to, we use these two phrases again, be much more robust, be much more scalable. The opportunities to your organization become much, much more when you've got the customer at the heart of everything. And I think, as we've said again, they're all important pillars, but this highlights again the importance of the customer element of it.
You're right, yeah. You're 100% right. And what's more is, as you see, and we see this with our clients, when they start to adopt work streams to improve their score in different areas, the biggest thing that I guess the CEOs of the world and their clients really care about is, what do the customers think?
Yeah.
In the nicest possible way, they're more interested in the customers than they are about a process being slightly faster, right? If that doesn't affect the customer, then what's the point? And so when they see that score going up, they're really happy, and it's a good thing. And actually, that really kind of draws us on to what's next. Once you understand where you are today and what you're scoring today, what do we do next? And so then once you understand how you're performing in each of the pillars, you've unpicked each area. So it might be digital business strategy. You understand integrally how you're performing in that area. You can start to plan your transformational work streams. So it might be, we need to change the way we build. We might change the way our digital teams work. We may need to do more training. We might need to go on a recruitment drive or bring in new teams, or whatever it might be.
Essentially, the gaps are there, aren't they? I think once you've gone through this exercise, what we're able to demonstrate is, look, here's the gap. So here's your as-is state. And if here's where you ideally want to be, and here's all the benefits to get there. But now here's a pathway that you can go start to adopt to do that. And that's something that then can be literally filtered into the business to help go on that journey, and can be tracked, can't it, ultimately? And that kind of, I guess, neatly draws us to the conclusion, really, of the importance of benchmarking and understanding your digital maturity, because this is what it's going to do for you.
Well, it builds your business case. Because if I am now trying to secure budget to undergo a new project or a new work stream of improvement, I can highlight in numbers on a very objective assessment what the measure of improvement will be if we are successful on this work stream.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, if you're going to ask for 150k of capex to undergo a new innovation framework project, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along, but you can see that it's going to improve your innovation score by 2 points, and that has a knock-on effect to your customer experience score, then suddenly you've got a business case. And what's more, you can measure your success on your work streams that you're undertaking, because in a year's time or in 6 months' time or the next quarter, when you reassess the business digitally using the NDI, then you then know if you've been successful or not. So you've got two things. You build a business case, and then you can measure your success as you've gone forward.
Brilliant. Well, that concludes this episode of the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. If you want access to the Novus Digital Index, the NDI, there's a free download that's available from our website, novus-strategy.com. There'll be a link somewhere around this video. If you're watching, if you're listening, just head to the website. That's novus-strategy.com and go to the NDI page, the Novus Digital Index, and there's a free download. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Within the download, it's not just the index, by the way. There's the questions are there, the scoring mechanisms. Yep. So you can have a crack at this yourselves. So if you have any help with this sort of stuff, as we say every week, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And well, probably say reach out to Pete, actually, because this is the stuff that you're doing day in, day out, to ask any questions, and we'd be delighted to help you. So thanks again for tuning in. We will be back next week with a new episode. For now, we hope you found that useful and beneficial, and we'll see you and talk to you again soon.
Cheers, guys.